Welcome to Two Homers and a Realist. It's the Midweek Pod, the K-State preview game. We are fired up and ready to talk about things. We just got our post-game for Nebraska out, so we're going to post this one sometime in November based on our current schedule. But I'm Steve.
Lucas.
Jay.
And Connor is not here. Connor is in Jamaica, man. He's elsewhere.
That's a completely different country, I think.
Yeah, I think it is. It's south of Texas.
Home of Usain Bolt.
So you think he's watching bobsledding, or what is he doing there?
There's no telling what he's doing. If I had to guess, he's probably passed out already.
Well, I was going to say, let's take bets on if he's arrested yet.
He's not arrested, but he's passed out because he's drank too much in the sun.
Do you think it's a diplomatic incident at this point? Is Biden going to have to intervene?
Well, I mean, if it's anything like Brittany Griner, he's screwed.
Do you think he rates higher than Brittany?
Not in my book.
No, not in anybody's book.
And I'm not very fond of hers.
Not in anybody's book. Not in anybody's book. Well, hopefully he'll be back in time for the game. That would be be real sad. You ought to call the State Department and say that they need to look extra difficult into him.
Yeah.
Just give him a little harassment.
They should pat him down at customs, make sure he's not bringing too many Cubans back.
Oh, I bet
Jamaica.
He's just loaded with the Cubans.
Yep.
He's got all kinds of places to hide those. Well, we got a lot to talk about coming up on what is going to be a pretty exciting nighttime game under the lights, the flashing, strobing lights. Hopefully they've keep that going, but improved it a little bit. Looking forward to a game I think is going to be pretty electric as far as the fans go. If prices are any guide, it's going to be pretty incredible. Looks like there's a lot of excitement, a lot of demand. Prices are high. And I can imagine that the weather's supposed to be great. It's a nighttime game. The team's back from a huge win at Nebraska. I think it's going to be an electric atmosphere. I think it's going to be by far the best atmosphere we've seen in some time. I don't know if we possibly saw one last year that will even come close to matching what I think we're going to see in terms of just crowd enthusiasm.
The only games last year where
Iowa
even
State
had a chance
decent.
was TCU.
Iowa State was decent last
Texas
year.
Texas Tech was pretty good, and it was a good win, so the team looked good. But I don't think it's going to be anything like this. I think you're going to
Well, we played Nebraska last year.
Yeah, so Nebraska probably...
Game of the century, anniversary, all that.
That probably matches up until the game starts, and then we are disappointing.
Then we were horrible, yeah.
But, no, I'm expecting good things out of the team. We'll get to our OU predictions in a bit. I had a poll question that I posed to our listeners, and it was basically, here that we set 3 games in, pretty good performances. How far along is OU compared to what you expected, the poll survey answer, expected they'd be at this point in the season? And I gave the 3 choices. I thought they'd be further along, they're about where I thought, or they're further along than I thought. My answer was they're further along than I thought they'd be. What do you guys think?
I chose further along, too, basically because the defense has performed better than I thought, because I didn't know the turnaround would be as fast and significant as it has been. Offensively is going about like I thought. I thought we'll be pretty good on offense, but not great. And I think that's how it's gone so far. But the defensive turnaround, even though we really haven't played a fantastic offensive team, just being able to hold any team under essentially 14 this far into the season, 3 games into the season, is something we'd never done before in the previous regime.
Yeah, our if you look at us across the board statistically, we are just doing phenomenally well.
We're 8th in
very
scoring
high,
defense.
Which, it's 3 games in, but it's
we're
not
8th,
for naught.
We're 8th in scoring defense playing, 2, let's say I'm calling rum-dums and a Power 5 opponent that's not very good, but also plenty of other teams have started off with
same team, same level of teams.
FCS team, and then played 2 non-Power 5 teams. So that stat should be equal to the other teams.
And for what it's worth, we're doing it with a lot of time being played by second stringers and third stringers.
Yeah,
that's probably not the case for a lot of these schools.
Yeah.
Like I don't know their lineup enough, but for instance, USC is not getting very deep in their defensive rotation because they're actually their defense is very susceptible to a lot of giving up a lot of yards, if not points.
That's surprising.
And they're having, it's a shocker. And I think a lot of teams are like that, where they have to keep those guys in a lot more, which should bode well for us down the season as we are keeping our health and getting more experience for the guys. But what do you think, Jay, about where we are?
Pretty much the same way as what Lucas just said. It's hard to ignore the defensive improvement. Not just that it's an improvement. We were just in a base, simple defense like we talked about the first 2 games and still held opponents way, way, way down. And then with not much time, I say not much time to prepare for a different 3-man front style defense that we busted out with Nebraska, it seemed to run extremely smooth for not having implemented it in gameplay yet.
Other than the first drive.
So, well, sure.
Yeah.
But that was still, you feel it out, you make adjustments.
Like Stoops used to always say, your first drive, you usually have a lot of success because you've got it completely scripted. The defense is trying to adjust to what you're doing,
right.
and that really that came to play out very true in that game, at least.
Offensively, I would say I was a little more optimistic with Gabriel coming in and the move to a different blocking scheme running-wise. I would say we're just a hair behind where I thought we would be offensively. I'm not disappointed.
Right.
But just a tick behind offensively. But defensively, I don't think you could ask for much more than what we've seen so far. And I think it's just, it could be one of those deals too where it's hard to not get super excited because I think the light bulb has turned on for these players. And I think they're figuring out, oh, this is why I'm doing this. Even if it's not me making the play, me doing this on this person's outside shoulder allows so-and-so to make the tackle instead. And so the more that they gain that confidence and understanding, I mean, do you guys see a regression in the defense coming?
No,
I don't.
I would be very surprised if there were one. I think both of you summarized it pretty well, and I tend to agree with you. And I definitely agree with what you're saying, Jay, about the offense, thinking about if Gabriel's connecting on some of the passes he missed, if the line is blocking and opening up a few more holes, then we're definitely at or above where I thought they'd be, but we're just a little bit below it, just slightly. To the defensive question, I would be really shocked. You can always run up and will run up against a really good offense. You got to discount that and put it all in perspective. Yeah, they're going to give up points and give up yards to good offenses, but will they be out of sorts? Will they look like they don't know what they're doing? I don't think so.
I mean,
except Deshaun White.
Well,
like if you have,
there's always one.
If I had to guess right now, if we were to lose a game this season, it's because of the offense right now.
Yeah.
I don't see a game where the defense just can't get off the field. We can't stop anybody.
We're not going to lose
and our
a
offense
shootout.
is just trying to
We're not
catch
gonna have
up
a
and play.
shootout.
It's just not going to happen, I don't think.
Yeah,
No.
that's what it seems to me as well.
I agree. I very much agree. Well, we're all on the same page there. I would expect Connor would have similar thoughts, but we don't know what Connor is thinking.
I'm going to say right now he probably doesn't have thoughts because he's been in the sun all day on the beach having adult beverages.
Somebody ought to probably go check the beaches for him because he might be washed out to sea by now.
He's probably still on the beach.
Or if there's a flesh detector, like a metal detector, but if he's buried in the sand somewhere.
Somebody might have tried to do one of those deals where you bury him in the sand and the tide comes in, and he'd fall for that every time. Well, I'm pretty excited about where we are. I think back to where we've been in prior seasons when we're 3 games in or so, and we've, several seasons in the past, we've either lost games or had close games where we could have lost. No game yet has been anywhere close to a challenge. So that's just an exciting, fun place to be. I feel very legitimate about our ranking and where we're stacking up. I expect that'll just continue and solidify. And I look at other teams and their struggles and what they're able to put together as a total package, and I think we stack up really nicely. Obviously, you've got a couple of teams, one team in Georgia that has yet to be really challenged at all and has a pretty impressive record to show for it, like winning impressively against at least one big-name opponent. Alabama struggled against Texas, but Texas is definitely better than anybody we've played yet so far.
Maybe.
We'll see. Maybe. That's true. You don't know.
Maybe not without yours.
You don't know. That's true. That's a good point.
We'll see if Tech can roll them up this weekend.
That's a good point. Well, we'll get to that potentially in the locks of the week in just a second. But we had a listener question. So what was that listener question?
We'd like to think...
Long-time listener, first-time
That's
questioner, right? Okay.
He might have asked a question before.
Okay. Multi-time questioner.
Yep, this is from our listeners.
Why is he
Matt.
questioning us so much?
I don't know. Maybe he just
raises
wants.
other
Maybe he just
concerns.
likes our voice and wants to hear us talk more.
Oh, okay. I'll whisper to him.
He wants to know, with our crimson glasses taken off, how do we feel about Dylan Gabriel?
Can I put my cream glasses on?
Sure.
Okay.
The realist doesn't wear crimson glasses. His
No.
are clear.
Yeah.
And
As an end zone analyst,
as an end zone analyst,
glasses aren't enough. He
I've been
needs
a little
binoculars.
disappointed with the overthrows on guys that have gotten open. He's not necessarily on deep balls, but just
Intermediate balls.
intermediate balls. He seems to just sail on them a little bit. And
Little adrenaline
he's
rush.
a little bit shorter of a guy, much like Baker was.
Kyler.
Obviously, I think he's probably a little taller than Kyler, but so he might have the velocity, the angle of it going up a little bit.
I
trying
think
to
it's
get
just
over
adrenaline.
linemen, and it could be adrenaline. And also, as many times as they've gone off and done their own 7-on-7 type situations, or just just throw into each other, they're still new teammates. He hasn't been here 2 seasons or whatever. They haven't played on the field together other than 3 games, so there still might be a little chemistry off here and there. His stats percentage-wise are good, but he really hasn't. He hasn't thrown too many bad balls as far as risky. I don't feel like there was the one interception that was called back for a defensive pass interference, but I don't think the defender could have got to that ball if he didn't shove the receiver out of the way to go get it. So that's been nice about being picky about his throws, even though we will complain that he's holding the ball a little too long on occasion. The first couple games, I can only think of 1 or 2 instances in the Nebraska game they did that, but overall, he's about what I thought he was coming into the season.
Even his deep balls have been either just not caught. They haven't been like up for grabs. Like Caleb last year threw a lot of 50-50 balls that we ended up coming down with.
Right.
Everyone remembers the Texas game, of course.
Right.
But a lot of times, Dylan's either overthrowing his receiver and nobody gets to it, or one of our guys is. So that's also positive.
So I would agree with a lot of what you said there, Lucas. I take whatever glasses you think I wear off. I feel pretty happy about Dylan. I think he is. He's not the ideal quarterback that you want at a championship level football, potentially.
Just based on measurables.
Yes, exactly. Based on the
Leadership-wise,
measurables.
I think
Leadership-wise, he might be there.
I think the team definitely follows him.
Yeah, I do.
He seems
agree.
super carefree. He never seems coming out of the huddle that he's skittish at all.
Right.
And
a lot of good
he's
confidence.
taken a couple sacks that he probably should have thrown the ball away or tried
Absolutely.
scrambling on, but he doesn't ever seem scared of the moment, even though we haven't had crazy tough opponent to deal.
Remains to be seen.
After Nebraska scored that first touchdown last week, we
and
were
he had already been stopped.
and we had already gone. We didn't go 3 and out, but
No, we got one first down
We got
and
one
punted.
first down and then punted. But that was a major turning point in the game. It could have gone either way.
Yeah.
And then they called that design run, and that might have been a settling type of deal. It might have been called for that reason to help, or it just might have been like, well, hey, he's going to get 15 yards on this if it's open, and next thing you know, it's 61 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
One thing
with
haven't
effort.
had to see him do yet, obviously, is down 10, late third quarter.
Right.
Like
Rally.
how much does he press? How much does he feel the pressure?
Can he think under that?
Do you guys
pressure?
feel comfortable? Not that you would feel comfortable, but do you feel comfortable needing a score with 4 minutes to go?
I don't know. I'm going to answer. I don't have enough information. However, I see glimpses of reasons I might be pretty optimistic about our chances. When you look at what we did at Kent State in that last second drive, and really his execution was better than the team's execution.
That was clutch.
It was clutch, and we made a mistake of not getting out of bounds. It almost cost us an opportunity, but he was doing everything he was supposed to do there. In the first quarter of the first game against UTEP, looked dynamite. Obviously, throughout most of Nebraska looks dynamite, including when we're down 7, and in a very hostile environment. So I don't know enough yet, but I'd say I expect I will feel comfortable. I'll say I like what you said about him not throwing bad balls, 50-50 balls. He's done smartly with the ball. it is back to he reminds you a lot of Heupel.
Yeah.
He throws a lot of smart balls. He doesn't take the bad chances. All of these things are very admirable and speak to his leadership qualities and his intelligence. And I've always said you want a quarterback who's intelligent above everything else. If you've got to start making trade-offs, once you get to a certain level in all of the skill set, err on the guy who's smart. He's going to lead you down the field. He's going to make better decisions. He's just not going to lose you the game. And what I like is he's not yet, and hopefully he doesn't, play hero ball. And even Baker's 2016 season was riddled at the start of it with hero ball. He was forcing things, trying to make things, holding the ball too long, and then trying to zip something in. And when he learned his composure and learned when to take his moments is when he took a magnificent step upward. So Dylan isn't playing that hero ball, and so that's good to see. I think he knows what his limitations are, and he's playing within them. So I'm pretty happy with him.
I think his personality disposition, it might just be the Hawaiian thing, like how laid back he seems. But he's got the leadership. But you see it in a lot of
you see
a lot of athletes that come from Hawaii. That it's like, oh, island life. We're all chill and all that, and it seems like stereotype.
Right.
But from what I've seen over the last couple of years it just comes to fruition that those athletes that come from there really are chill.
Think about a guy who always appeared chill, and again, I'm not going to try to draw too much of a comparison here, but that Kyler was always relaxed.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think you can frazzle the guy.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just, some guys have that personality.
But I don't think
frustrated, but doesn't get frazzled.
Right.
And other guys are almost Baker, a little more high-strung, a little tough. Yeah, I bet he's been in Hawaii, though. So different guys find their style and in their comfort zone, but it is like he's in the flow, and I like that. And I'm sure that the team feeds off of that energy and really responds well to it. That's got to speak well, and it's just a little easier to be confident when you got a great defense that is helping you out and playing good complementary football. We still will never appreciate.
And they could be coaching them that way, too.
It could be, but we'll never appreciate what Baker and Kyler were able to do with defenses that kept letting them down. That's just so amazing. That's a great question.
Yep, thank you, Matt.
I like that. Good job, Matt. So we'll promote him. We're going to give him 4.5 homers for he can use. You can redeem those at the end of the year at the store. So Connor had a little bit of outlook, and this will give us a chance to transition. Actually, before we talk about that, I want to talk about one other thing. I hear there's news about Bedlam. Is there news about Bedlam?
Is that?
Yeah.
What is that?
I think that's a thing that one group of people thinks a thing, and the other group of people knows is not a thing.
90, 19, and 7, I believe. Is that what?
No, it's worse than that.
It's worse than that's the number I kept hearing.
Let's look. Oh, hold on.
It's bad.
OSU.
I don't mind playing little brother year after year. I think the fans of
90, 19, and 7.
Yeah, I think the fans of that school treat it like their Super Bowl.
Yeah, which
is fine, and we obviously have a way bigger affinity for the OU Texas game.
But it's even more.
We're behind on that lifetime.
Yeah, but only when you look because of what happened in the 20s and 30s.
Pre-World War, right? Yeah.
But I mean, when they beat us, it's a big deal. I think Mike Gundy is like 3-19 or something like that, something crazy.
I don't think it's quite. He hasn't had that many.
Well,
years.
Venables is
including as a player and an assistant coach.
It's
Venables
really
is only
bad.
3 wins behind Gundy.
What a fantastic stat!
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Well, I mean, he may get a chance to just go 1-0 and then never play him again.
Yeah,
it would be totally fine with me if he goes 2-0 this season, and then he will have one less win than Gundy in Bedlam.
Yeah, I think the critical thing is somebody else has. It's the most what we're going for. If we were to go 2-0, we would have the most victories of any team over another team in the FBS division.
Wow!
So I think it's Nebraska, Kansas.
I've seen a lot of Facebook and Twitter commentary today, specifically of OSU fans saying, "Good riddance! You did this to yourselves. You guys were greedy and left. We don't owe you anything. We shouldn't have to bend over backwards." I kept saying we shouldn't have to bend over backwards to make this rivalry continue. And I was saying, what do you mean bend over backwards when Iowa and Iowa State have been out of conference for decades?
Right.
And they
South
play
Carolina,
every year.
Clemson.
South Carolina, Clemson. Florida, Miami, and used to be Big East and ACC until they Big East went away. They played each other.
Florida State, Miami. Yeah.
Is that what I say?
Yeah, Florida.
That's what I meant. Yeah, Florida State, Miami.
Yeah.
ACC and Big East, they play each other for decades.
Yeah.
OU, Texas, decades, different conferences. Mm-hmm. It's not. There's no bending over backwards. No. It's literally, let's get it figured out.
Yeah.
We play home and home. When really, if you look, I mean, it should be a 2-for-1. Yeah. Should be a 2-for-1, but we would just, we would
bend over backwards.
We would bend over backwards and make it a 1-to-1. But at this point, I don't care. Mm-hmm. I mean, it doesn't matter.
It's hilarious. Like they're doing us. They've been doing us the favor or something weird. It makes no sense. I mean, you win once a decade. Well, you should be happy.
Yes.
You've maybe added another W.
They're in stages of grief, and this has gone somewhere between denial and bargaining. To me, I've been early on in this entire move to the SEC. I made the decision, and my thought process was, we want to end that series. We are not interested in it, because I look on paper. There's two major reasons. One is I look on paper, and I say, one, they obviously do not beat us very often.
Right.
This is the best decade plus in their history, and they've had an abysmal record against us. In fact, it's worse than their long-term record, which is awful. It is matching up as one of those games where you don't want to play it. It's high risk, low reward. You get very little benefit out of doing the thing you're expected to do when you win.
It's almost like
if
the
you
Boise
lose,
bowl game.
You get and even worse because they were really good.
Yeah.
It's really tough to get out of it more than you're risking. And like you said, it's their Super Bowl. They play up for it in a way that we have a hard time getting up for it. There's just an asymmetry there that's a bad matchup for OU.
The only way it benefits you is if they come in and you play them one of the first 3 games of the year, let's say, and they're a top 15 team.
Right.
But with a 12-team playoff coming up,
right,
you don't need those.
Well, if you're going to get them, go get them against Ohio State, the real OSU.
Yeah, I mean,
or somebody else.
It doesn't do you much good to schedule them.
No, it really doesn't.
And beat a top 15 team.
Because think about it, if they're not a top 15 team, it's not going to be a big television draw.
Right.
They're not going to get on TV. It's going to be a minor event.
And our fans don't give 2 craps about going to Stillwater.
No.
So you're not gaining when we play UCLA, even though they're not great.
You get it enjoyable.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't get an enjoyable vacation or
and I'd argue that
UCLA
is not that way because their name is bigger than their talent level. OSU's talent level is bigger than their name.
Yeah.
Don't tell them they'll get, no matter how you compliment them.
But it's not a vacation spot.
It's not. Well, it's not. And it's more like playing California, where you run a big risk. You're going to play California. You're supposed to lose that game, and all of a sudden, or you win that game, and all of a sudden you lose it, and it's nothing but a big blemish.
And it doesn't seem to have any effect on in-state recruiting.
Well, that's what I was going to say is my second reason. I think, if anything, it probably negatively affects us in terms of recruiting ever so slightly because by playing the game, it gives them credibility they don't deserve. And in the eyes of recruiters, I mean, it takes a big major game off of their schedule. Now they're going to be stuck with a Big 12 schedule and scrambling to find somebody else. It's one premier game they're not going to have.
But
it
does help them in the sense of that's one less loss on their loss that they're going to have on their resume.
That's
so
true.
Therefore, they'll have a better percentage chance of getting into the playoff.
We might meet them in the playoff quite a bit because I'm sure they'll want to match us up against them.
And
that'll
recruiting wise, when they go look and say you're a high school kid and you watched OU 4 years in a row dominate OSU, and you maybe got it narrowed down to OU, Texas, and Arkansas, let's say. Mm-hmm. I mean, OU, Oklahoma State, and Arkansas. And you're
There's just not a lot of kids like
Oklahoma's beat OSU 4 years in a row. Why would I go to that place? And now
I just don't think we compete that often with OSU directly.
I mean, we did on Ryan Broyles.
Yeah, there's 15 years ago.
There's probably 3 or 4 guys in the last. I mean, Trace Ford.
Yeah,
I would love to have that guy on our team, but
it's just not a lot.
I think we didn't recruit him.
I think our chances to get those guys go up if we avoid them and play another bigger opponent. I think at the margin we actually improve our chances there, but maybe not. I just don't see a lot of benefit to OU of continuing it.
Yeah.
And there's some evil part of me that just kind of giggles at the fact that it's bothering them so much, because I hate anybody with a sense of entitlement, and they've taken a sense of entitlement to this entire thing. And that's always been the attitude that the little brother has brought to it, of you and I are the same, right? We're all Oklahoma, right? And no, we're a team and you're a team, and we don't have to root for you, and if you choose to root for us, that's fine. But to me, I've always been one, and you can be any way you want. There's plenty of people, they're great people, I know them. They root for both teams until they're playing each other, and then they choose one or the other. They've got their loyalty. I root against them every time. I find that enjoyable. It's just one of those teams I like rooting against.
I'm surprised, really, how everyone feels, because I truly think it's a benefit for them. Like you mentioned before, I do think it's at least a chance at gaining another win.
They lose the loss.
Or for sure not having a loss. And they will be one of the 2 or 3 teams that run the conference. And they haven't really been that. But they've got a chance, them, Baylor, maybe a BYU, maybe a Cincinnati. I mean, they're in that top 3-4 for sure. Mm-hmm. And they have a chance, given that the Big 12 remains a team with some sort of automatic qualifier,
right,
or a Premier League. They have a better chance now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it
of getting into the playoffs. There's no question.
If they can bring a few more teams in and solidify stature, I think you're right for sure.
They're all trying to save face though. They're all butthurt. All the OSU fans are. That's the finger pointing, like, you guys are the ones that left. It's all your fault, and we don't want anything to do with you anymore. And that's fine by me. Who cares?
And to your point there, Jay, that if you look back over the last, what has it been now, 12 years, their competition in conference has been now the removal of Nebraska, A&M, now OU and Texas. That's 4 big programs to get out of your way. And obviously, you're left with some others that can compete with you and have from time to time. But they're kind of in a driver's seat. They need to probably just be happy with their position that we've given them. They should be thanking us.
They should be thanking us.
Yep.
That's my whole point.
I agree. They should pay our buyout.
Absolutely.
I think that's where we're settling on this issue. Well, Connor has some thoughts about the game. Let me read his comments that he sent in via carrier pigeon from the islands. Thoughts on this weekend. Adrian Martinez is a carbon copy of himself at Nebraska. Kleinman is trying to figure out that team without Skylar Thompson. That being said, it is K-State. But what I saw in Lincoln has put to bed any bad any nerves. I think he needs to work on his typing.
Put to bed any nerves.
Put to bed any nerves I had, but he repeated himself, with this game, especially the fact that it's under the lights, OU covers. So he's feeling pretty bold about it. He likes it. What are our thoughts? What do you guys think about this upcoming game?
This was a game I had circled being worried about coming into the season, just because of the toughness of K-State players, it always seems like, at least under Kleiman. And, I mean, Snyder had those guys. I mean, Snyder's beat us in Norman in the last, 4 or 5 trips. We had the year Honeycutt missed an extra point and he missed a field goal. Snyder wins that game, and they drive by Switzer's house and get out and stop, and Switzer gets on the bus and talks to the players or whatever, that whole story. Mm-hmm. But, man, that loss last week was kind of out of the blue to me.
It's rough.
According to them, it was very much a look-ahead game. They did not prepare for Tulane. I find that hard to believe that Kleiman would not have prepared his team to play a game.
That doesn't make any sense to me.
Connor makes a great point, though. Adrian Martinez is, he's just not very good and he has not taken care of the ball since he's been a Division I college quarterback. He turns it over all the time. He doesn't make good decisions between running and throwing. I was worried about this game earlier coming into the season, but the only thing that bothers me currently about the game is the ball control that they pulled on us the last couple of years, where they've taken the ball out of our offensive hands by extended, 8 or 9 minute drives over 16 plays to kick a field goal, let's say. And then your offense, by the time they finally get back on the field, well, they're cold because they've been sitting on the bench for a half hour.
And know they have to perform.
And know that they need to go get some points because they're only going to get 7 chances this game to have the ball in their hand.
But freakily don't act like they have to.
Right, but with this defense, I don't see that playing out.
Agreed.
Because the chaos theory of the Brent Venables defense, they're going to, with what little bit of blitzing we saw in the Nebraska game, it created havoc.
Yeah.
And even our base defense against the first couple teams had their own, tackle for losses and sacks. But now that conference play is getting ramped up, and we're going to do a little bit more scheme wise, I just don't think they're going to score that many on us, and won't be able to have
dominate the clock,
continuous long drives to keep the ball out of the offense's hands.
What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, my view is pretty simplistic. If we had the coaching staff from last year, I would be petrified of this football game. And from what I've seen so far, it's just
experience
like
told me the same.
We have better talent, and previously we have been out-coached, out-toughed, out-prepared, and that's just not going to happen Saturday.
I think that's a great way to frame it. I think you're right. We're gonna be tougher. We already have the talent advantage.
I'm pretty sure Kansas State.
We're gonna be tougher, and we're gonna be smarter.
I think they called us out Kleiman's second year, because they beat us 2 years in a row. And I think they called us out, the players, in like the post game, saying, "No, we weren't worried about this. We knew we're a tougher team than them.
Yeah,
we knew we were going to push them around."
And it's not going to happen
anymore. It's not going to happen.
And it really came to fruition last year, late in that game, as we let them creep back into that game. The style that we played with was fast and loose. Didn't seem to be taking them very seriously, and definitely wasn't finishing a game. That finesse style got out-toughed. And finesse can work, and finesse is good, but you can't turn your back on somebody. And we seem to just turn our back on them. And all of a sudden, as we lectured the Kansas State fans as they were getting up, you guys are dumb. We're still in this game, and sure enough, they were.
You called it exactly, too, because we got that penalty that pushed us back on the kickoff.
And we still
and you were
deep.
Screaming, "Do not kick it deep, do not kick it deep."
And
again, he took it all the way back.
Out-coaching. Who was the coach of the special teams last year?
Oh, we didn't know.
So I think I very much agree with you guys in terms of outlook of what we should expect. Something you were saying, Lucas, it just escapes me, that on the ball control. No, I think we're going to play, finally, this is a good test of complementary football. If that chaotic, disruptive defense of Brent Venables, which is what was promised and never delivered in Alex Grinch's defenses, if they can get out there and either get off the field by completely shutting somebody down, or in the worst case scenario, you give up a score and then you have the ball back to answer. But it's not one of these death by 1,000 cuts, and all of a sudden 10 minutes are gone, and even if they're just kicking a field goal, that's very rough because you're dealing with so many fewer possessions.
There were some brutal drives last year.
Yes.
On our defense. That was just, 17 play drives that were just.
Yep.
Your team can't even respond to that.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting when people in the Pac-12 start to figure that out. If they, haven't played a Pac-12 game yet, but that would be the way I'd attack them.
They played Stanford.
You're right. They did play Stanford, but they're not known as intelligent people at Stanford, right? Somebody's got to figure that out and be able to challenge that way. It's very formulaic, and you can beat formulaic with an antidote formula. So I'm glad to see we don't have that. I don't think. If we get beat, we'll get beat differently, and I don't see us very likely getting beat in this game. We'll talk in a second about our locks of the week, but first, let's talk about our score predictions. So we've all made and entered our score predictions. I have those envelopes. We've had our auditing firm at Deloitte reviewing those, verifying the results. So I'm going to just go from top to bottom, as it were. I'll actually do it in terms of margin of victory since it's a little bit different. I have the score, 49-10. I'm going with the same score as what I gave last week. I'm feeling strong about that. I think we can pull that off. And then next is Lucas at 45-14. The other homer of the group, apparently.
Yeah, look at the two homers just blowing them out of the water.
Well, close behind his twin, Connor, 45-17. Connor's got a field goal coming late in that game, something very late and meaningless, but it differentiates him from Lucas. And then Jay's got a tighter game at 33-16, but still a Sooner victory, and that would, in that case, still cover the spread.
A lot of ball control in that game for you?
Yeah, I do think Kansas State will do like what you were worried about, just slowing down the game.
I don't think it's going to happen because the tackle for loss aspect is something we really haven't had in the past, and this defense has proven over the first 3 games that they can get in the backfield. And I think if Kansas State gets off schedule and they don't have 2nd and 6, if they've got
if it's second and third
8,
long,
and then it's 3rd and 11, Adrian Martinez has proven he cannot handle behind the chains
or pressure.
So if we just do that 5 or 6 drives during the game, there's no way they put up more than 20 points. I
very much agree, and I think the combination of what I believe and predict will be a great fan atmosphere with what Brent Venables' defense is going to bring on the field is going to be exceptionally disruptive for him. I think you might see a lot of short fields, either created by pushing them back and they're punting from deep, and so they're giving up a lot to a great punt return team, or maybe just some turnovers that lead us to some short field positions.
My score isn't necessarily predicated on them having long, sustaining, slow drives. I'm still a little gun shy, maybe, of like that first half against Kent State.
The offense.
Mm-hmm.
I can see Kansas State slowing us down. I can see it being a little bit boring of a defensive punt field position game for a little bit till we catch our footing. And then it's just too much for them.
And Deuce Vaughn's been known to get loose.
That's true.
It wouldn't surprise me if he has a 60-yard touchdown run.
Right.
But Adrian Martinez is so careless with the ball. He gets confused so easily. Mm-hmm. I've watched it too many years against good defenses. Obviously, last year when he was here, our defense wasn't any good, but
at that point they were still contained. Pretty good.
And they scored less.
Flashes of good.
What was the final score last year in the OU Nebraska game?
You would ask that.
Well, it was 20-9 when we had the interception.
I think we beat them by 5. Is that right?
They scored another touchdown
because they had the DJ Graham
24-19. What was it?
24-19. That sounds right.
So we'll go with that.
So even with a defense that wasn't great, we kept them under 20 last year, and this defense obviously is so much better coached, and the players seem more hungry to get to the ball behind the line of scrimmage, especially. So I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I'm not worried defensively. I'm just, my only concern is the offense sputtering from time to time.
Yeah,
and that's a very legitimate
concern. It's not like Nebraska.
For sure.
Adrian Martinez was Nebraska, but
23-16. You're right. It was. It was at that point. So our last score was a touchdown. 23-16.
I don't have the faith that Adrian Martinez can lead this team to score 20-ish points, and I'd be shocked if our offense doesn't score at least in the 30s. I predicted 40. What did I say?
45-14.
I think we'll have.
See, to me, that's a lot of points against Kansas.
I think we'll have a defensive touchdown, or a special teams touchdown, or, like Steve said, some short fields. It wouldn't be surprised for Adrian Martinez to fumble a sack inside the 30, and then you've got a super short field to go score.
Well, my score is aspirational, but I still think we're highly capable of doing that if we put things together, if we continue. Actually, we don't even have to make progress if we just continue what we did at Nebraska. And I think that we're going to be properly motivated. This doesn't seem to me like a trap game the way others could from a player perspective, or this coaching staff. Anything can look like a trap game, though, when things aren't clicking. But I just feel like they've got a lot of reason to feel they need to prepare. If they're looking back at how this team's played us in the past and how a good, well-coached team they've been, you've got to put a lot of respect into it. But at the same time, they've played over their heads against us and over their heads against others in terms of their complete talent level. So that comes against going up against a really good team, which I think we are. That starts to play out, and you get revealed for who you are. That's why I think that it's going to be actually a pretty big margin.
If Texas was next week, I'd be a little more worried about the traveling aspect.
Yeah.
I do have one little concern with Brent Venables, former K-State player, former K-State assistant.
Mm-hmm. You're thinking of Lon Kruger here.
And then you've got
the Lon Kruger effect. He never could beat K-State.
You've got the Bill Snyder mentor factor. Will he take his foot off the gas?
I don't think so.
I
don't think so. And what always gives me comfort about not just this example, but so many, is all the experience Brent Venables has at OU. And seeing because if you remember, and that was maybe a legitimate concern or reason that seemed to happen so often, although they were really well coached and good teams under Bill Snyder, we always had a tough game against K-State, it seemed like. Now, and truthfully, we didn't always. What did we beat them, 55-0 after losing in 2018 to Texas? We've had those comeback games against them that have been big, but it just seems to memory so many times we couldn't put them away. They're at the end of the game. If it isn't a game, they're trying to make it a game, and they're getting kind of close to doing it.
2000 Big 12 championship was tight.
Right.
2000
very tight.
3 Big 12 championship we lost.
Right, very handily.
Snyder beat us at home.
But no, in 2001, I think it was, we're all of a sudden scrambling. It was like a 41-38 game that it wasn't that close, but he put on a late touchdown and went and got the onside kick, and all of a sudden they're within 3 points. But you didn't feel like it was in doubt, but it's like, wow, he's making this a game.
So you don't think maybe 8 minutes to go in the game, we're up by 21, that we start taking it a little bit easier to try to not embarrass them because it's his alma mater?
I don't think that's a concern. If we're in a position to embarrass them, then they can't come back. What you're worried about is if they mistake a narrow lead relatively for you're about to embarrass them. Because that's where I think you let a team back in, where you think 14 or 17 or 21 points is enough, and it's not. If we're up 28 points, they should let off because and there's 8 minutes to go or whatever.
I think Brent's level of embarrassment is a much higher number than that.
I do too.
Like Nebraska.
Yeah.
We could have buried Nebraska.
Uh-huh.
We could have embarrassed.
Absolutely.
Gabriel didn't play past the first series in the third quarter.
No, and I think he wanted to get people experience. I think he had a lot of motivations there. I don't think he's got a big heart.
I think his embarrassment level's, a 50-point win, and you've got your players
and that's
in,
enough. Mm-hmm.
And you're still, it's fourth quarter, and your starters.
Oh, he was just running. He was just running it in Barnes into the line.
I don't think a 20-point lead.
Right.
He would even. I think he would be upset that we haven't.
Especially where they are right
that.
now. I think that he's going to look at it as we need to build on as much as we can. Ask me that question in 4 years when we've had 4 Brent Venables recruiting classes and we're at that top level of football. Then it might be different where he feels more comfortable at a lower level, lower margin, and then it remains to be seen if that's enough. Because any way you look at it, you're giving up a chance. You're giving a team a chance to come back on you if just the math allows it with time and the margin that you're at. But I agree. I don't think he's going to do that at this point. I don't think he has to worry about that.
Going into the lock segment, is 13 a fishy number? Does that seem low?
I think it seems low. That struck me as low.
Yeah, same here.
I was really surprised by that.
Especially after the loss.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think if they beat...
I don't know.
If they would have beat Tulane by 10-14 last week...
The way they were supposed to.
This line would seem a little more on pace with what it should be. But I would have guessed this line would be 18-21, honestly.
Are we still being overlooked? So what I heard was, and when did you tell me this, or did I hear it from someone else, that that I think somebody shared the stat that last week OU Nebraska was by far the biggest bet game, and all the money came in for OU. Like, it was heavy money came in for OU. So for some reason, is Vegas in their algorithms, however they're capturing this, got something wrong where they're not giving OU enough credit and not giving our lines enough to where they should be? It'd be interesting to see where the money comes in this week for this one, because I think it seems low.
Yeah.
On paper and in my instincts and my model, it looks low. So I don't know. Actually, my model thinks it's right on par. So, but my model hasn't been great. Well, let's talk about the locks of the week.
The realest deal, locks of the week.
By the way, do you like the way I was able to put the new intro in for the locks of the week? I figured out how to do that.
I didn't hear it.
You didn't hear it? You not listen to the Midweek pod last week?
Nope, I didn't get a chance to because I was traveling the country singing Pearl Jam.
I did that all for you. And well, let's get an update first about where we stand with the number of weeks, 3 weeks under our belt that we've got.
We making anybody any money?
Well,
I was 0-3.
Here's the way it looks.
I'm out.
So, well, do you want to know what everyone was for last week? So there's only one of us who knows how to be consistent, and that's me. I'm 1 and 2 again. So Connor was 2 and 1. The one he lost was one of the same ones Lucas lost, App State, and Lucas was 1 and 2. Nope, he was 0 and 3.
Yep.
God, Lucas, come on,
Horrible.
man. Now, Jay, he was 2 and 3, narrowly.
2 and 3? How is that possible?
2 out of 3, 2 and 1. The Miami game got away from him. He took Miami in the points, but A&M was able to cover that narrowly. So for the year so far, 3 weeks in, I'm 3 and 6, Mr. Consistent. Connor's 5 and 4, a winning record. Lucas is 4 and 5, and Jay is 5 and 4. So our overall record as a team, 17 and 19, 47%. So if you guys could get consistent, and if I could start winning, then we'd be better.
Yeah,
so let's see if we can turn this around this week. I'm going to start with Connor's locks of the week since he's not here. He's got Coastal Carolina giving 2.5. Now, who's Coastal Carolina playing?
Georgia State.
Georgia State, yeah. Okay, I kind of like that too, but it's not a lock. He also has Michigan State getting 2.5. Something about that 2.5 number.
That seemed like a fishy line to me.
Is exciting to him. So Michigan State is playing Minnesota. It's at Michigan State. They're getting points. I tend to agree that looks a little fishy. And then last, he's got Southern Cal, USC, giving 6.5 to Oregon State.
And you've gone against Southern Cal that's been one of your picks every week, is it not?
Yes, it has.
The opposite
Well,
side.
let's get right into mine.
Yeah.
So I've got Central Michigan getting 26.5. They are playing now. Are they playing early, or are they? No, they're not playing early. They're playing on Saturday at 11 a.m. Against Penn State. So getting 26.5 from the Nittany Lions. I like Central Michigan. I've got OU giving 13.5 to K-State. I like that line. And then, Contra Connor, I like Oregon State getting 6.5 from USC. This is going to be, I'm going to go out on a limb, this is the first game USC loses. They're going to straight up lose the game. That's a lock. Make it a lock.
I mean,
lock it in.
Every week you
It's
pick
a
against
lock.
that squad. So
Have you watched them play football?
Yeah,
They are so
I have.
vulnerable. They are not good at football.
Okay.
They just play in a crap league, but they are not good at football. If their opponents knew anything about putting a game plan together, they can run at will against them. It's ridiculous. Lucas, what do you got?
I've got Oklahoma minus 13.5 for all the reasons we just discussed.
Mm-hmm.
I have Clemson minus 7.5 at Wake Forest. I think just talent-wise, I know the Wake Forest quarterback is good, but talent-wise, I think Clemson has it. I mean, 7.5 points does not seem like much for a Clemson squad.
Mm-hmm. You'd probably like it more at 6.5, just a touchdown.
I would. And then I've got the Ohio State Buckeyes minus 17.5 against Wisconsin. I think they're out to prove a point that they are running that conference. And they're going to try to – they're at home at the Horseshoe. I think Wisconsin's good, not great, and they're going to try to run it up on them.
Yeah, those are some pretty sound reasons. I think they've got a lot to win by winning that game big, so that lends itself a little bit to keeping your foot on the gas. Helps prevent a backdoor cover, maybe. I would be on the other side of that, though. So, what do you got, Jay?
I'm staying very local.
Okay. Tulsa?
Not quite that local. I'm staying pretty much in the conference here.
Okay.
I like TCU minus half a point. That's just...
Who are they playing?
At SMU.
SMU.
Yeah, at SMU. So
crosstown rivals.
Crosstown rivals.
Yeah, but you also got
rich kid rivalry there in the
you also
DFW
have
area.
the head coach from that school now at TCU.
Yep.
Who's going to know everything
He knows
about
where the locker
that
room
school.
is. Yeah.
I don't know. A half a point. That's just simply. I just think there's probably better players at TCU.
You're basically
than
picking
SMU.
TCU as the winner of that game.
Yes. I'm gonna go back with Baylor.
You can't. You just
Getting 2.5.
now give him a hard time about going back to Baylor. You give me a hard time about anti-USC. Are they giving up 2.5?
They're
they're
getting
getting
2.5.
Getting 2.5.
I thought I had that as one of my possible. That seems like a fishy line also.
I know.
Who are they playing?
Iowa State.
Iowa State.
Oh yeah.
In Ames.
Yeah.
It's just coming off the BYU game, not playing that well. I have a lot of
That wasn't last week. That was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but I have a lot of respect for Aranda. I just think
More than you do Matt Campbell.
yes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Are there Matt Campbell, Nebraska whispers?
No, I think it's more of a Kansas whisper, actually.
Just again, there's
No, Jay already has him going to LSU after they
we
fired Brian
changed
Kelly
it.
this year.
Yeah, well, but I think he's actually going to Nebraska.
But again, how many times does a ranked team versus an unranked get points? It's not very often.
Yeah.
On the road, though, but yeah.
And I'm gonna just be a complete homer. Go with OU. I just don't.
We all like it.
You had
except Connor.
33-16. That's a 17-point spread.
Yeah, but I think
Not
it's
a big margin
I think
difference
it's
there.
Nebraska-ish. The game isn't really that close.
Gotcha.
They get a couple field goals.
Well, I mean, I think that's really reasonable. I mean, you got us covering, and the way you talk about the game, it's about as tight as you can see the game, and so the upside there is a bigger margin. It's going to be really tough to be a tighter margin from the way you describe it, and I hope that's true. Well, those are some interesting locks of the week. Let's see if we can turn this around and get a winning record across the board. That would be really good, especially since OU is one of our picks for 3 out of the 4 of us. We got one with Connor and I taking the opposite sides in the same game, so that'll be kind of interesting to see how that plays out. Southern Cal, Oregon State. It should be an exciting week of football. Not as exciting as they're going to get down the road in a few weeks, but we'll start to see some things sort themselves out. This is when you start seeing some sorting, some teams that figure out what kind of season they're about to have, in good ways and in bad ways. So you got some guys on the fence. It'll be really interesting to see in like that LSU game if where LSU's headed for the rest of this season, among other teams. But anything else to cover? You're gonna be at the game?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm gonna be at the game. You're gonna be at the game.
I'm going to be at the game.
Bearing some international incident, Connor's gonna be at the game. We got a lot of people coming in for this game. It's Parents' Weekend. We're gonna have a full house. We got people staying in this bedroom. We got 4 people in this bedroom. We got 2 house guests down in Ava's bedroom. We got another house guest over in Max's bedroom. It's gonna be a full house of party and fun all weekend long. I'm pretty excited. I think the team's gonna look great.
We'll give out the address so people stop by.
So it's 1600 Pennsylvania. Yeah, really, for the free party. Well, first 500 guests get in, no cover. Well, I'm excited about it, and we'll be back for the post game. potentially on Sunday. I want to discuss that with you guys. When's the best time for the
It will get
postgame.
posted a lot faster than the current one.
Yeah, we'll do it better than the Wednesday.
We won't have a Zoom.
I thought we were going to literally be posting the preview game before the post game today until that came in at the last minute and we got it up. But we'll get all that done, and until then, Boomer.
Sooner.